Have you ever scrolled through your social media feed, a thought forming in your mind, perhaps a nuanced perspective on a trending topic, only to hesitate, fingers hovering over the keyboard? You weigh the words not for their accuracy, but for their potential reception. You picture the comments, the reactions, the possibility of misunderstanding, misinterpretation, or worse, outright condemnation. And in that moment, a subtle but undeniable pressure builds, isn't it? A silent algorithm of social approval and disapproval playing out in your mind, prompting you to self-censor, to dilute your true opinion, or even to simply scroll past, choosing silence over the potential storm. This isn't just about fleeting online interactions. It's a feeling that permeates so many facets of our lives in 2024. Whether it's the pressure to conform to certain narratives in the workplace, the unspoken rules within our social circles, or the broader societal expectations propagated by news cycles and cultural influencers, there's an ever-present tension. We find ourselves constantly navigating a delicate balance, the deep-seated human desire to belong, to be accepted, to fit in, warring with an equally fundamental yearning to be authentic, to express our true selves, to stand by our convictions. It's the battle between fitting in and being truly, unequivocally yourself, a conflict that feels intensely personal, yet undeniably universal in our hyper-connected age. The paradox is stark. We live in an era that champions individual expression, diverse voices, and personal branding, yet simultaneously, the invisible hand of public opinion exerts a tyranny more pervasive than perhaps ever before. The threat of cancel culture looms, not just for celebrities, but for everyday individuals whose careers, reputations, and even mental well-being can be shattered by a single misstep, a poorly worded tweet, or an unpopular stance taken out of context. But beyond the dramatic headlines, there's a quieter, more insidious form of pressure, the constant, low-level hum of anxiety that tells us to stay in line, to avoid rocking the boat, to prioritize perceived harmony over genuine thought. It cultivates a kind of self-imposed intellectual conformity where daring to think differently, let alone voice it, feels like a dangerous act of rebellion. What if I told you that this very modern dilemma, this intricate dance between conformity and individuality, this tyranny of public opinion, and the subtle erosion of our freedom to think and speak our minds, was not only predicted but meticulously dissected by a philosopher writing over 150 years ago? Imagine someone living in the bustling industrial heart of 19th century Britain, with no internet, no smartphones, no social media feeds, yet possessing such profound insight into human nature and society that he could foresee the very pressures we grapple with today. That philosopher was John Stuart Mill. In his groundbreaking work on liberty, published in 1859, Mill laid bare the mechanisms of societal coercion, arguing that the greatest threat to individual freedom might not always come from an oppressive government, but from the crushing weight of popular sentiment, from the pressure of the majority. He understood that while we might celebrate political freedoms, true liberty also hinges on the freedom of thought and discussion, the right to form and express one's own opinions, even if those opinions are unpopular, even if they challenge the prevailing orthodoxy. Mill didn't just diagnose the problem, he offered a powerful intellectual toolkit, a set of principles and arguments designed to safeguard individual autonomy against the very forces that seek to homogenize our minds and our voices. He provided a robust defense of unconventional thought, a fervent plea for the marketplace of ideas, and a clear articulation of why a society thrives not on uniformity, but on the vibrant, sometimes unsettling, clash of diverse perspectives. In the coming segments, we're not just going to delve into an old book. We're going to unlock Mill's wisdom, dissect his arguments, and understand how his toolkit can equip *U* to navigate the intricate landscape of 2024. We'll explore how to distinguish genuine freedom from its deceptive counterfeits, how to cultivate intellectual courage in an age of fear, and ultimately, how to claim your right to be truly, authentically free, not just in theory, but in the everyday choices you make and the opinions you dare to hold and express. Prepare to discover why true liberty is not a given, but a constant, vital struggle, and why understanding John Stuart Mill might be the most crucial step you take towards reclaiming your own intellectual independence. Hello and welcome. Have you ever felt that nagging pull, that subtle pressure to conform, to dim your own light just a little to fit neatly into the world's predefined boxes? Or perhaps you've wrestled with the question of how much freedom is too much, or how to truly live authentically in a world that often seems to demand uniformity. These aren't new questions. In fact, they've been pondered, debated, and even fought over for centuries. And it's one such timeless conversation, penned over 150 years ago, that has become an unexpected, transformative guide in my own life, and one I believe holds immense power for navigating the complexities of modern existence. Today, we're diving into a book that, on the surface, might seem like a relic from a distant academic past, John Stuart Mill's On Liberty. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking: another stuffy old philosopher, another dense text full of impenetrable prose. But I promise you, that couldn't be further from the truth. Forget the powdered wigs and the dusty university lecture halls. John Stuart Mill in his time was nothing short of a radical, a visionary who, alongside his brilliant wife Harriet Taylor Mill, crafted an argument for individual freedom and self-expression that was profoundly forward-thinking, even revolutionary, and frankly, still feels startlingly relevant today. He wasn't just theorizing, he was laying down a blueprint for a society where individuals could truly flourish, where the tyranny of the majority or the stifling grip of custom wouldn't crush the unique spirit within each of us. For me, On Liberty didn't arrive as an assigned reading in a college course. It found me at a pivotal moment when I was deeply struggling with a path that felt inauthentic to my true self. I was caught in the gravitational pull of societal expectations, constantly second-guessing my unconventional ambitions, convinced that my own desires were somehow less valid than the well-trodden roads laid out for me. The fear of judgment, of being seen as different, was a suffocating weight. I remember one particular crossroads, facing a choice between a secure, predictable career that felt utterly soul-draining and pursuing a creative endeavor that, while thrilling, seemed incredibly risky and invited the raised eyebrows of well-meaning friends and family. It was a period of intense anxiety, of feeling paralyzed by the thought of stepping outside the lines. Then, I picked up On Liberty, and it wasn't an immediate lightning bolt, but a slow, steady revelation. Mill's passionate defense of the experiments of living, his assertion that human beings should be free to develop their individuality, to explore different ways of life without societal interference, provided not just permission, but a robust philosophical framework for embracing my nonconformist urges. His concept of the harm principle, that the only legitimate reason for society to interfere with an individual's liberty is to prevent harm to others, became a powerful lens through which to examine my fears. Was my unconventional path truly harming anyone? Or was the perceived harm merely the discomfort of others witnessing something outside their norm? This book gave me the intellectual courage to stand firm, to silence the internal critics echoing external pressures, and ultimately, to choose the path that resonated most deeply with my own truth. It wasn't just about making a single decision, it was about internalizing a philosophy that empowers continuous self-discovery and resilience in the face of judgment. And that, fundamentally, is the goal of this video series, to bridge the gap between Mill's meticulously argued philosophy and the very real, often messy, challenges of living an authentic, fulfilling life in the 21st century. We're going to translate what might seem like dense academic concepts into practical wisdom, actionable insights, and guiding principles for navigating everything from personal choices to public discourse. This isn't a lecture, it's a journey into a profoundly human text that can equip us with the tools to cultivate genuine self-expression, respect diverse viewpoints, and understand the true boundaries of our freedom and our responsibilities. So, what can you expect as we embark on this exploration? We'll begin by diving deeper into Socrates, the man behind the mind, exploring Mill's fascinating life and the influences that shaped his radical ideas. Then, we'll unpack the harm principle, what it is and what it isn't, dissecting this cornerstone of his philosophy to understand its nuances and common misinterpretations. Next, we'll tackle the tyranny of the majority and the power of individuality, examining how societal pressures can stifle uniqueness and why Mill championed individual eccentricity. We'll also dedicate a section to the marketplace of ideas, why free speech truly matters, exploring his powerful arguments for open debate and diverse opinions, even those we find offensive. Finally, we'll conclude with Mill for the modern world, living an authentic life today, bringing all these threads together with contemporary examples and actionable strategies. Join me as we unearth the enduring wisdom of John Stuart Mill, a guide whose words, though written long ago, offer a remarkably fresh perspective on what it means to be truly free, truly individual, and truly alive. Welcome to Chapter 1, The Tyranny of the Majority. When we think about threats to our freedom, our minds often jump to oppressive governments, authoritarian regimes, or powerful institutions. We picture overt censorship, political imprisonment, or state-sanctioned surveillance. And these are undeniably real dangers. But what if the greatest threat to your individual liberty isn't a dictator or a secret police force, but something far more insidious, something woven into the very fabric of our social lives? What if it's the quiet, persistent hum of what your neighbors think, what your friends approve of, what society deems acceptable? This is the profound insight offered by the philosopher John Stuart Mill in his seminal work, on Liberty. Mill argued that democracy, while offering many benefits, harbored a particular peril, the tyranny of the majority. This isn't about government overreach in the traditional sense. It's about the overwhelming power of collective opinion, the crushing weight of social conformity, and the relentless pressure to fall in line with the prevailing views of the majority. To understand this concept in our modern world, Think about something we've all witnessed: the social media pile-on. Imagine an individual expressing an unpopular or contrarian viewpoint online. Almost instantly, a digital mob descends. Comments flood in, criticisms mount, and the person finds themselves deluged by public condemnation. Their words are twisted, their character assassinated, and their reputation potentially ruined, all for daring to voice an opinion that deviates from the groupthink. Or consider the phenomenon of cancel culture, where individuals face professional and social ostracism, sometimes for past missteps, but often for simply holding beliefs that fall outside the current consensus. This isn't the government banning speech, it's society itself acting as a collective censor, exerting immense pressure to conform. This social pressure creates what psychologists and sociologists call the chilling effect. When we witness others being savaged for their opinions, we learn to self-censor. We might have a nuanced perspective on a contentious issue, but knowing the potential backlash, we keep it to ourselves. We bite our tongues in conversations, we avoid posting certain thoughts online, we even moderate our behavior in public, all to avoid becoming the next target of social disapproval. The fear of being ostracized, of losing friends, job opportunities, or simply public standing becomes a powerful deterrent. It subtly shapes our thoughts and expressions, making us less individual and more reflective of the perceived group norm. We preemptively silence ourselves, not because a law demands it, but because the social cost of defiance feels too high. This tyranny isn't confined to grand pronouncements on political or social issues. It infiltrates the most personal aspects of our lives. Consider career choices. How many of us have felt a subtle, or not so subtle, pressure from family, friends, or broader societal expectations to pursue a respectable or lucrative profession, even if our true passions lie elsewhere? Perhaps you wanted to be an artist, a philosopher, or a craftsman, but were steered towards law, medicine, or finance because that's what successful people do. This isn't direct coercion, but it's a powerful current of expectation that can dictate life paths. Similarly, our political views, seemingly the bastion of individual thought, are often heavily influenced by this tyranny. In a deeply polarized society, it can feel almost mandatory to align with one tribe or another, to adopt an entire package of beliefs, rather than selecting individual positions based on their merits. To express a centrist view in a highly partisan environment, or to hold a nuanced opinion that doesn't fit neatly into either camp, can invite suspicion and rejection from both sides. We might find ourselves parroting talking points we don't entirely agree with, or suppressing doubts simply to maintain solidarity with our chosen group. Even our aesthetic tastes, what music we listen to, what fashion we wear, what shows we watch, can be subtly or overtly policed by the prevailing trends and opinions of our social circles. So, I invite you to reflect for a moment. Can you recall a time in your own life when you felt pressured by a group to agree with something you didn't truly believe? A time when you held back an opinion or feigned enthusiasm for an idea because the alternative felt too uncomfortable, too risky, or simply too isolating? Perhaps it was in a classroom, at a family gathering, within a friend group, or even online. That feeling, that subtle but persistent nudge towards conformity, is precisely the tyranny of the majority that Mill warned us about. It's a silent, pervasive force, often more effective at stifling genuine individuality than any government decree. Unlike governmental oppression, which can often be identified and resisted, This social tyranny operates through subtle psychological manipulation, making it notoriously difficult to pinpoint, let alone rebel against. And understanding its profound power is crucial as we delve deeper into Plato's timeless inquiry into justice, society, and the ideal state. Welcome back. In our previous chapter, we laid the groundwork for Plato's The Republic, exploring its questions about justice and the ideal state. But before we delve deeper into Socrates' dialogues, we need to address a fundamental prerequisite for any meaningful pursuit of truth: the freedom to explore ideas, even those we find offensive or utterly wrong. This brings us to Chapter 2, The Sacred Right to be Wrong, where we'll explore John Stuart Mill's radical, yet profoundly necessary, defense of free speech, and why society must protect the expression of ideas we find offensive, hateful, or just plain wrong. Mill's 19th century insights resonate with startling clarity in our modern, polarized world, offering a powerful antidote to the urge to silence. Mill, in his seminal work on liberty, doesn't just tolerate dissenting opinions. He argues for their absolute necessity as a cornerstone of human progress. His defense rests on three powerful pillars, each challenging our desire for certainty. The first is perhaps the most humbling: the opinion we are trying to suppress, the one we are so certain is false, might actually be true. To assume our own infallibility, to silence a voice because we are certain of its error, is to commit the gravest error, denying humanity the opportunity to exchange error for truth. Profound advancements have often stemmed from ideas initially ridiculed or forbidden. Consider the heliocentric model of our solar system. For centuries, the geocentric view, placing Earth at the center, was not merely conventional wisdom, but a sacred dogma interwoven with religious and scientific authority. Nicolaus Copernicus and Galileo Galilei dared to challenge this belief, proposing Earth revolved around the sun. Their ideas were deemed heretical and mistaken. Galileo faced persecution, forced to recant his errors. Yet, today, the heliocentric model is common sense, a fundamental truth taught to every child. If society had suppressed Galileo's wrong idea, imagine the stifling of scientific inquiry, the delay in our understanding of the cosmos. History is replete with examples from women's suffrage to democracy, where once absurd ideas have become accepted truths. We are not immune from such historical blind spots. Mill's second pillar: even if the unpopular opinion isn't wholly true, it might contain a portion of the truth. Rarely is any complex issue absolute. Most controversial ideas often hold some element of insight or an overlooked perspective that, integrated with prevailing views, leads to a more complete understanding. Suppressing these partially true ideas impoverishes our understanding, denying us a richer truth. Consider economic policy debates: pure free markets versus state control. Neither extreme is wholly correct, but each offers valid points. Debating both allows us to extract insights for a more effective mixed economy. Finally, and crucially, Mill argues that even if an opinion is entirely false, allowing its expression and actively challenging it strengthens our own beliefs. When our cherished truths are never tested, never debated, they risk becoming mere dogma, held without deep conviction or reasoned foundation. We believe them because we've been told to, not because we've grappled with alternatives and emerged with reasoned conviction. Constant challenge forces us to articulate our reasons, examine our foundations, and truly understand why we believe what we believe. Without this intellectual sparring, our truths become dead dogmas, easily shaken. Our understanding withers without the friction of dissent. It's vital, however, to draw a clear distinction. Mill's defense of free speech is about the asterisk expression of ideas asterisk, no matter how controversial, not an unbridled license to harass or personally attack individuals. We can and should vehemently challenge an idea, dissect its logic, and argue against its implications. But this must occur without personal insults, threats, or incitement to harm against the person expressing it. The marketplace of ideas thrives on robust debate, not ad hominem attacks. Focus must remain on the intellectual content and the idea's impact, not the speaker's character. This distinction is paramount for a vibrant, respectful public discourse. This entire framework rests upon one bedrock principle: intellectual humility. It requires us to acknowledge the limits of our own knowledge, to remain open to being mistaken, and to respect the process of inquiry even when it leads to uncomfortable conclusions. It means approaching ideas, even those we detest, not with an immediate impulse to silence, but with a willingness to engage, understand, and challenge with reason. It's a recognition that truth is not a static possession, but an ongoing collaborative pursuit. In a polarized world, where the urge to silence viewpoints often triumphs over understanding, Mill's arguments are more relevant than ever. They remind us that the sacred right to be wrong is not a license for chaos, but the essential nutrient for intellectual growth, societal progress, and the pursuit of truth underlying Plato's inquiry into the ideal state. Without this freedom, we are merely echo chambers, content with illusions, rather than seekers of wisdom. Welcome back. In our ongoing exploration of the foundational ideas that shape our understanding of society and justice, we now turn to a principle that, while perhaps not explicitly detailed in the ancient texts of Plato, profoundly influences our modern discussions about freedom and its limits. It's a concept articulated most famously by the 19th century philosopher John Stuart Mill, and it's known as the harm principle. This isn't just an abstract philosophical idea, it's a living, breathing tension in our everyday lives, dictating where your individual liberty potentially clashes with the collective good and where society has a legitimate right to step in. The harm principle, at its core, is remarkably simple yet endlessly complex in its application. Mill's celebrated formulation states that the only purpose for which power can be rightfully exercised over any member of a civilized community against his will is to prevent harm to others. A more common, perhaps more visceral way to phrase it, often attributed to various legal thinkers, is your right to swing your arm's ends where another person's nose begins. This simple metaphor perfectly encapsulates the essence: you are free to do as you please, to live as you choose, to express your individuality in countless ways, right up until the point where your actions directly and demonstrably impinge upon the well-being, safety, or legitimate rights of another person. It posits that individual liberty should be maximized and societal interference should be minimized, reserved only for those instances where there's a clear, quantifiable danger to others. But what precisely constitutes harm? And crucially, what doesn't? This is where much of the misunderstanding and contentious debate arises. For Mill, legitimate harm refers to tangible, direct, and significant detriment to an individual. This includes unequivocally physical injury, a punched nose, an assault, bodily harm of any kind, It extends to the destruction of property, theft, fraud, or any act that leads to a clear and measurable financial ruin for another. It encompasses actions that directly impede someone's ability to exercise their own rights, such as false imprisonment or defamation that demonstrably destroys one's livelihood. The key here is the direct, demonstrable, and substantial impact on a person's life, safety, or fundamental liberties. It's about actions that genuinely diminish another person's capacity to live their own life freely and safely, or that directly violate their legal and moral standing within society. Contrast this with what Mill explicitly argues is not legitimate harm for the purpose of societal intervention, subjective offense. This category includes feeling uncomfortable, insulted, disgusted, or having one's moral sensibilities violated. It encompasses disapproval of another's lifestyle choices, their beliefs, their appearance, or their speech, however much those things might clash with one's own deeply held values. If someone's actions are self-regarding, meaning they primarily affect only the individual themselves, then even if others find those actions morally repugnant or deeply offensive, society, according to Mill, has no right to intervene coercively. The mere fact that you find someone's chosen attire, their public display of affection with a partner, their religious beliefs, or their political views to be offensive, distasteful, or even morally wrong, does not, under the harm principle, justify limiting their freedom or imposing sanctions upon them. To do so would be to allow the tyranny of the majority to dictate personal morality, stifling diversity and individual expression, which Mill saw as vital for societal progress. He believed that robust debate and exposure to different ways of life, even those we find challenging, are essential for human flourishing. However, the world we inhabit today presents a multitude of complex gray areas that challenge the straightforward application of Mill's principle, particularly in the digital realm. Consider the pervasive issue of online harassment. Where does a hurtful comment, which might traditionally fall under offense, cross the line into harm? If online bullying leads to severe, clinically diagnosed depression, anxiety, or even suicide, can that be considered harm? Mill, writing in the 19th century, couldn't have foreseen the internet, but his principles offer a framework. If persistent online harassment leads to job loss, doxing results in physical threats or financial ruin, or targeted campaigns of misinformation demonstrably destroy a person's reputation and livelihood beyond mere disagreement, these consequences begin to look very much like the harm Mill described. The line blurs when psychological distress becomes so severe and debilitating that it fundamentally impairs a person's ability to function in society, moving beyond mere hurt feelings into a realm of genuine, sustained psychological injury. The challenge lies in distinguishing between the unavoidable discomfort of encountering disagreeable views and targeted, malicious campaigns designed to inflict severe, debilitating distress or material detriment. For Mill, the intent and the demonstrable, substantial impact would be critical. Ultimately, the harm principle, far from being a license for a free-for-all, is a profound call for personal responsibility both on the part of the individual acting and the society reacting. For the individual, it demands self-awareness and restraint. You are free, yes, but your freedom is contingent on not directly harming others. You must understand and respect those boundaries. For society, it demands intellectual rigor and tolerance. It requires us to distinguish between genuine, provable harm and subjective discomfort, to resist the urge to legislate morality, and to cultivate an environment where diverse ideas and lifestyles can coexist, even if they sometimes chafe our sensibilities. It compels us to be robust enough to withstand speech or actions that merely offend us, engaging with them through reasoned argument and debate, rather than seeking to silence or suppress them. The harm principle is a delicate balance, a constant negotiation, and a crucial compass in our ongoing quest to balance individual liberty with the necessary cohesion of a civilized society. Welcome back, truth seekers and curious minds. In our journey through Plato's Republic, we've explored grand visions of justice, ideal societies, and the pursuit of wisdom. But today we're taking a fascinating detour, one that some might call a radical departure from the structured ideals of the polis. Our focus shifts to Chapter 4, Experiments in Living the Power of Being Weird. And yes, we're embracing that word weird because it holds a profound truth about human flourishing and societal progress. While Plato's Republic meticulously constructs an ideal city, often with a highly structured social order and predefined roles, our discussion today draws inspiration from a different, yet equally profound philosophical tradition, specifically the ideas of John Stuart Mill. Mill, in his seminal work on Liberty champions the very things that Plato's guardians might have viewed with suspicion: individuality, eccentricity, and non-conformity. He argues that these aren't just charming personal quirks, but absolutely essential ingredients for a vibrant, innovative, and progressing society. At the heart of Mill's argument is a concept he termed experiments in living. Imagine society not as a single, well-trodden path, but as a vast, open field where countless individuals are trying out different routes, different ways of being, different lifestyles. These are not merely frivolous pursuits. They are profound personal quests to discover what truly leads to human flourishing. Some paths will prove to be dead ends, others will lead to unexpected beauty, and still others might uncover entirely new ways of existing that benefit not just the individual, but the entire community. Without these bold individuals charting new territories, we'd all be stuck following the same old maps, never discovering new horizons. Think about it. Who are often the catalysts for new ideas, groundbreaking art, and revolutionary progress? More often than not, it's the nonconformists, the outsiders, the dreamers who dare to see the world differently. It's the so-called weirdos who challenge the status quo, who refuse to fit neatly into predefined boxes. They are the ones who ask why not. When everyone else is asking why bother, their unconventional perspectives shatter prevailing assumptions, opening up new avenues for thought, creation, and societal advancement. They show us alternatives, possibilities we hadn't even conceived of, demonstrating that there isn't just one right way to live or think. Consider some of history's most influential figures, those who fundamentally reshaped our world. Take Steve Jobs, for instance, a college dropout who pursued calligraphy and Eastern mysticism. He fused art and technology in ways that seemed utterly bizarre to the established tech giants of his time. His insistence on aesthetics, user experience, and a holistic product design broke every rule in the book, leading to Apple's revolutionary products and effectively defining the modern personal computer and smartphone industries. He was, by all conventional measures, an eccentric, a maverick, a weirdo, and his vision undeniably pushed humanity forward. Or look at the world of art. Vincent van Gogh, during his lifetime, was considered an outcast, his vibrant, emotionally charged paintings dismissed as crude or insane. He failed to sell most of his works and died in obscurity. Yet today, he is celebrated as one of the greatest artists of all time, his unique vision having profoundly influenced subsequent generations and completely redefined our understanding of artistic expression. His weirdness was his genius, and it's not just tech or art. Think of social change. Women like the suffragettes fighting for the right to vote were initially seen as radical, unladylike, and disruptive, essentially social weirdos. Their tireless nonconformity, their refusal to accept the prevailing societal norms, eventually led to one of the most fundamental shifts in democratic equality. Or Rosa Parks, whose single, defiant act of nonconformity on a bus sparked a monumental civil rights movement. These are individuals who, by daring to be different, changed the course of history for everyone. The message here is clear: society needs its eccentrics. It needs its deviants from the norm. It needs its individuals who are brave enough to explore the outer reaches of human potential. Without them, we risk intellectual stagnation, cultural monotony, and a collective inability to adapt and evolve. A society that actively discourages or suppresses individuality is one that is slowly suffocating its own future. So, as we reflect on Mill's powerful arguments, I invite you to consider your own life. We all face pressures to conform, to fit in, to follow the well-trodden path. Perhaps it's in your career choices, your hobbies, your style, or even your opinions. Where are you currently conforming against your authentic desires? Is there an area, large or small, where you feel a gentle tug towards expressing a more unique, perhaps a slightly weird part of yourself? It doesn't require a grand, revolutionary act. Sometimes it's as simple as pursuing a passion others don't understand, voicing an unpopular but deeply held belief, or choosing a lifestyle that prioritizes personal values over societal expectations. Embracing your own experiments in living, however small, is not just an act of self-liberation, it's a quiet contribution to the richness and dynamism of the human experience. Remember, the power of being weird isn't about being outlandish for its own sake. It's about cultivating authenticity, honoring your unique perspective, and understanding that by doing so, you not only enrich your own life, but also contribute to a world that is more diverse, more resilient, and ultimately, more capable of true flourishing. Let's celebrate the beautiful tapestry woven by countless individual threads, each vibrant in its own distinct way. In our journey through Plato's Republic, we've explored the search for justice, the ideal state, and the philosopher-king. But what happens once we've ostensibly found these truths? What prevents our hard-won convictions from solidifying into something lifeless, something inert? This brings us to a crucial point, brilliantly articulated not by Plato himself, but by a later intellectual giant, John Stuart Mill, whose insights provide a powerful lens through which to examine the vitality of our beliefs, even those we hold dearest. This is Chapter 5, Why Your Strongest Beliefs Need to Be Attacked. Mill, in his seminal work on liberty, warns against the danger of what he terms dead dogma. What is dead dogma? It's a belief you hold, not because you've arrived at it through careful thought, debate, and personal conviction, but because it was handed down to you. It's something you believe just because. Perhaps your parents always believed it, or your community, or your favorite influencer. You've never truly interrogated it, never sought out counter-arguments, never wrestled with its implications. It simply is asterisk, Consider a simple example. Perhaps you believe that a certain type of diet is unequivocally the healthiest. When pressed to explain why beyond a surface-level assertion, you might find yourself stumbling. You can't articulate the scientific principles, the nutritional evidence, or the counter-arguments for other diets. You just know it's true because you've always heard it, or because it's popular in your social circle. That's dead dogma in action. It's not a living, breathing conviction, it's a fossil, inherited but not owned. Mill passionately argues that our convictions are meaningless and indeed often harmful unless they can withstand vigorous debate. For a belief to be truly ours, for it to be useful, it must be alive. And what gives life to a belief? Intellectual struggle. Think of it like physical exercise. If you never challenge your muscles, they atrophy. They become weak and unresponsive. The same is true for your beliefs. When you expose a belief to opposing viewpoints, when you are forced to defend it, to refine it, to understand its weaknesses as well as its strengths, it becomes stronger. It gains depth, nuance, and resilience. It transforms from a rote memorization into a deeply held, personally validated truth. This process isn't about proving you're right. It's about ensuring your rightness, if it exists, is built on solid, examined ground. The inverse of this vital intellectual struggle is the echo chamber. In today's fragmented information landscape, it's easier than ever to surround ourselves only with voices that affirm what we already believe. We follow like-minded individuals, consume content that reinforces our biases, and dismiss anything that challenges our worldview as inherently flawed or misguided. While comforting, this environment is intellectually debilitating. Echo chambers are breeding grounds for dead dogma. They create weak minds incapable of critical thought, quick to anger or dismiss when confronted with difference, because their beliefs have never been subjected to the rigorous exercise of debate. These are minds that, ironically, believe themselves to be strong, yet are built on the most fragile of foundations. Socrates, the intellectual ancestor of Plato's dialogues, famously declared that the unexamined life is not worth living. We can extend this to say the unexamined belief is not worth holding. It doesn't contribute to genuine understanding or progress. So, how do we prevent our beliefs from becoming dead dogma? How do we ensure they are vibrant, robust, and truly our own? Here's a challenge for you. Inspired by Mill's call for intellectual rigor, pick one core belief you hold. It could be about politics, religion, ethics, or even just a strongly held opinion about a specific social issue. Something you consider fundamental to your worldview. Now, for the next few minutes, I want you to actively play devil's advocate against your own conviction. Articulate, to yourself or even out loud, 3 strong, compelling arguments against that belief. Don't just dismiss them, try to genuinely understand their logic, their perspective. What are the strongest counter-arguments? What valid points do opponents raise? This isn't an exercise in self-doubt or abandoning your principles. It's an exercise in intellectual honesty and strength. If your belief can withstand this internal assault, if you can genuinely understand and counter the opposing arguments, then your conviction emerges not just intact, but enriched. It moves from being a dogma to a living, breathing, profoundly meaningful part of who you are, capable of contributing to a more reasoned and just society, much like Plato envisioned. This act of deliberate self-critique is the ultimate test of a truly held belief and essential for any pursuit of wisdom. Welcome to Chapter 6, where we confront perhaps the most enduring and complex challenge of political philosophy, finding the sweet spot, the optimal balance between individual liberty and the legitimate needs of society. This isn't an abstract debate confined to dusty old books. It's the daily tension we navigate in every aspect of our modern lives, from public health directives to online speech regulations. We've journeyed through Plato's vision of a meticulously structured, virtuous society in The Republic and now we bring the sharp, incisive thought of John Stuart Mill to bear on how we might actually achieve a well-ordered society that values both collective stability and individual flourishing. At the heart of Mill's philosophy, a principle we must continually return to, is the unwavering assertion that the default position, the starting point for any truly free and progressive society, should always be freedom. He argued passionately that individuals ought to be free to pursue their own good in their own way, to experiment with different ways of living, to express unconventional ideas, and to make choices that might seem eccentric or even wrong to others. For Mill, this wasn't merely a matter of individual rights, it was a societal imperative. He believed that the unhindered exploration of diverse ideas and lifestyles was the engine of human progress, preventing stagnation, challenging dogma, and ultimately leading to a more vibrant, dynamic, and truthful collective understanding. When we allow individuals to be free, we unleash creativity, foster critical thinking, and allow for the emergence of novel solutions to societal problems that conformity could never produce. It's a fundamental belief that human flourishing is inextricably linked to the broadest possible scope for individual autonomy, provided that autonomy does not directly infringe upon the rights or well-being of others. This harm principle is the bedrock. Society can only legitimately intervene in an individual's liberty to prevent harm to others. However, even the most ardent champion of liberty must concede a crucial point: absolute, unchecked individual freedom, without any boundaries whatsoever, quickly devolves into chaos. A society where everyone does exactly as they please, without any consideration for common rules or shared spaces, is a society that simply cannot function. Imagine for a moment a world devoid of traffic laws. No speed limits, no red lights, no designated lanes. The result wouldn't be liberating, it would be catastrophic. The freedom to drive at 100 miles per hour through a crowded city street directly impedes the freedom of others to travel safely, not to mention their very right to life. These are not trivial restrictions. They are essential frameworks that allow millions of individuals to navigate shared spaces, to commute, to transport goods, and to engage in economic and social activities with a reasonable expectation of safety and order. Rules like these traffic laws, building codes, public health regulations, consumer safety standards are not designed to oppress. They are designed to prevent clear, demonstrable harm and to facilitate collective living. They represent the necessary social contract, the implicit agreement that we all sacrifice a sliver of unfettered liberty to gain the far greater benefit of a safe, predictable, and functional society. Without them, the very notion of a shared public sphere collapses, and with it, many of the liberties we cherish most. Yet, acknowledging the necessity of some rules is vastly different from accepting any rule. This leads us to another of Mill's vital contributions, the unwavering insistence that the burden of proof, the responsibility to justify an action, always rests squarely and heavily on the person or institution seeking to restrict individual liberty. It is not up to the individual to prove why they should be free. It is up to the state, the community, or any authority proposing a limitation to unequivocally demonstrate why that freedom must be curtailed. And that demonstration, according to Mill, must meet an exceedingly high bar. It requires clear, compelling evidence that the exercise of a particular liberty is directly and demonstrably causing harm to others, not mere offense, not perceived immorality, not even the paternalistic desire to save someone from themselves, but actual, tangible harm. This burden of proof is our primary safeguard against arbitrary power, against the tyranny of the majority, and against the erosion of fundamental freedoms under the guise of the common good. It forces societies to engage in rigorous debate, to present evidence, to consider alternatives, and to continually re-evaluate the true necessity and proportionality of any proposed restriction. Without this principle, the door swings open to ever-increasing surveillance, control, and the slow strangulation of individual autonomy. So, we've covered the what Mill's assertion of freedom as the default and the why its role in individual flourishing and societal progress, tempered by the necessity of harm-preventing rules. Now, we arrive at the truly challenging and fascinating part, the how. How do we, in the 21st century, apply these profound but often abstract philosophical principles to the messy, nuanced, and rapidly evolving realities of our modern world? How do we define harm when it comes to online misinformation, environmental degradation, or the spread of infectious diseases? Where do we draw the line between protecting vulnerable populations and allowing individuals the freedom to make choices that might carry risks? This is where philosophy moves from contemplation to action, from theory to the complex art of governance and citizenship. It demands ongoing critical thinking, empathy, and a commitment to rational discourse. This isn't a task with a simple, one-size-fits-all answer, but rather an ongoing negotiation, a dynamic process of finding that delicate, ever-shifting balance that allows us to build a society that is both safe and free. And it's precisely this constant tension, this perpetual striving for equilibrium, that we will continue to explore as we delve deeper into the practical applications of these powerful ideas. Yet, acknowledging the necessity of some rules is vastly different from accepting any rule. This leads us to another of Mill's vital contributions, the unwavering insistence that the burden of proof, the responsibility to justify an action, always rests squarely and heavily on the person or institution seeking to restrict individual liberty. It is not up to the individual to prove why they should be free. It is up to the state, the community, or any authority proposing a limitation to unequivocally demonstrate why that freedom must be curtailed. And that demonstration, according to Mill, must meet an exceedingly high bar. It requires clear, compelling evidence that the exercise of a particular liberty is directly and demonstrably causing harm to others, not mere offense, not perceived immorality, not even the paternalistic desire to save someone from themselves, but actual, tangible harm. This burden of proof is our primary safeguard against arbitrary power, against the tyranny of the majority, and against the erosion of fundamental freedoms under the guise of the common good. It forces societies to engage in rigorous debate, to present evidence, to consider alternatives, and to continually re-evaluate the true necessity and proportionality of any proposed restriction. Without this principle, the door swings open to ever-increasing surveillance control and the slow strangulation of individual autonomy. So, we've covered the what Mill's assertion of freedom as the default and the why its role in individual flourishing and societal progress, tempered by the necessity of harm-preventing rules. Now, we arrive at the truly challenging and fascinating part, the how. How do we, in the 21st century, apply these profound but often abstract philosophical principles to the messy, nuanced, and rapidly evolving realities of our modern world? How do we define harm when it comes to online misinformation, environmental degradation, or the spread of infectious diseases? Where do we draw the line between protecting vulnerable populations and allowing individuals the freedom to make choices that might carry risks? This is where philosophy moves from contemplation to action, from theory to the complex art of governance and citizenship. It demands ongoing critical thinking, empathy, and a commitment to rational discourse. This isn't a task with a simple, one-size-fits-all answer, but rather an ongoing negotiation, a dynamic process of finding that delicate, ever-shifting balance that allows us to build a society that is both safe and free. And it's precisely this constant tension, this perpetual striving. All right, listeners, we've journeyed through the intricate landscapes of Plato's Republic, wrestling with timeless questions of justice, ideal societies, and the nature of truth. But what does ancient philosophy truly mean for our modern lives? How do we take these profound, centuries-old ideas off the page and into our daily existence? That's precisely where our 7-day Liberty Action Plan comes in. This isn't just an exercise in abstract theory. It's a practical, week-long challenge meticulously designed to help you actively incorporate the principles of critical thinking, open-mindedness, and authentic self-expression into your daily routine. We're turning philosophy into tangible action, guiding you on a personal journey to cultivate a more robust, considered, and genuinely free way of being in the world. Think of it as your own personal experiment in intellectual and personal liberation. Are you ready to dive in and consciously shape your experience? Let's begin. Desk for days 1 and 2, we're focusing on media diversity. Desk for the next 48 hours, your challenge is to actively engage with a source you normally avoid, or perhaps even strongly disagree with. Find a news outlet, an opinion column, a podcast, or even a YouTube channel that represents a viewpoint significantly divergent from your own. Dedicate a focused 30 minutes, not skim reading, not hate listening, but genuinely listening to its content. The goal here isn't to argue, to rebut, or to convert. It's about cultivating intellectual humility and broadening your sphere of understanding. In an age of echo chambers and filter bubbles, it's all too easy to exclusively reinforce our pre-existing beliefs, hardening them into unexamined dogma. True intellectual growth, the kind that fortifies a free mind, springs from encountering and genuinely striving to comprehend perspectives that challenge our own. Approach this task like an anthropologist studying an unfamiliar culture. Listen for the underlying values, the core assumptions, the emotional drivers behind the arguments. What informs their worldview? Can you articulate their position in a way they would agree with, even if you still fundamentally for equilibrium? That we will continue to explore as we delve deeper into the practical applications of these powerful ideas. Strisk for days 3 and 4. we move to a small experiment in personal freedom. Over these 2 days, your mission is to do one small thing that deliberately breaks your personal conformity. This isn't about grand rebellion or dramatic gestures, but about reclaiming a tiny, authentic piece of yourself that might have been subtly stifled by societal expectations or self-imposed limits. Perhaps it's wearing that vibrant shirt, that quirky accessory, or that bold lipstick you absolutely adore but usually deem too much for everyday wear. Or maybe it's openly sharing a unique hobby, an unconventional interest, or a slightly eccentric passion you typically keep under wraps, even if it's just with a casual acquaintance or a small group of friends. Think about it. Our innate human desire to belong often leads us to unconsciously suppress aspects of our individuality. We conform to unspoken norms in appearance, behavior, or even our expressed interests, often without even realizing we're doing it. This challenge is about consciously pushing back against that gentle, pervasive tyranny of convention. It's about celebrating the richness and distinctiveness of who you are, unburdened by the perceived judgment of others. Authentic self-expression, in its myriad forms, is a vital, non-negotiable component of a truly well-lived life. Start small. The aim isn't discomfort or alienating others, but a gentle, joyful assertion of your unique character. Pay close attention to how it feels. Is there a subtle sense of liberation, a quiet thrill of being more fully, more genuinely yourself? This exercise builds self-trust and confidence, helping you recognize where you might be unconsciously limiting your own scope and giving you explicit permission to explore and express your distinct identity. It's a powerful step towards living more genuinely, rather than simply adhering to an external, pre-written script. Use these 2 days to identify that small thing and then, with a touch of bravery, execute it. Asterisk for days 5 and 6, we delve into belief defense tasks. For the next 48 hours, your task requires deep introspection and intellectual honesty. Take one of your core values, something you deeply believe in, perhaps justice, compassion, personal responsibility, freedom of expression, or environmental stewardship. Write it down clearly. Then, the challenging part, list 3 genuinely intelligent, reasonable arguments that a smart, ethical, and well-intentioned person might use to disagree with your position. It's incredibly easy to dismiss opposing viewpoints as misinformed, malicious, or simply irrational. But a truly robust and resilient belief system isn't one that merely tolerates disagreement. It's one that has been tested rigorously against intelligent counter-arguments and, as a result, has emerged stronger, more nuanced, or perhaps even subtly refined. This challenge forces you to step deliberately into the shoes of an intellectual adversary, not with the intention of defeating them, but with the profound intention of understanding their ground, their logic, their guiding principles. This requires a profound level of intellectual honesty. Avoid simplistic strawman arguments. Instead, imagine someone you deeply respect, someone genuinely thoughtful and ethical, who happens to hold a different view. What are their legitimate concerns? What alternative values might they prioritize that lead them to a different conclusion? Consider the potential downsides or unintended consequences of your own cherished value if it were taken to an extreme. This profound exercise deepens your understanding, not just of the world, but of your own convictions. It empowers you to articulate your beliefs more effectively and makes you far more resilient to informed criticism. Crucially, It cultivates intellectual empathy, helping you recognize that reasonable people can, and often do, hold fundamentally different, yet equally valid perspectives. Use these 2 days for thoughtful reflection and precise, honest articulation. Asterisk for day 7. We culminate in the act of speaking up. Don't ask. On this final day of our action plan, your challenge is to respectfully voice a genuine opinion you might normally keep to yourself within the context of a low-stakes conversation with a trusted friend, family member, or colleague. This isn't about starting an argument or being confrontational in any way. It's about finding a natural moment to articulate a thoughtful perspective on something, perhaps a nuanced take on a current event, a personal preference, or a gentle disagreement that you would typically self-censor out of politeness, a desire to avoid perceived awkwardness, or an ingrained habit of sidestepping conflict. The freedom to express our thoughts, our unique contributions to the ongoing human conversation, is absolutely fundamental to a truly free existence. Yet so often, the biggest barrier isn't external censorship, it's our own internal inhibition. We silence ourselves for a myriad of reasons, and in doing so, we slowly erode our capacity for authentic engagement. This challenge is about gently overcoming that internal barrier, about flexing your muscle of respectful self-expression in a safe, supportive environment. Choose a context where the stakes are genuinely low. This isn't the moment to reveal a shocking secret or to challenge a deeply held belief of your friends in a confrontational way. It's about sharing a part of yourself, a thought, an observation, a considered viewpoint that adds to the conversation rather than shuts it down. Frame your opinion thoughtfully, perhaps starting with phrases like, "I've been thinking about this, and my perspective is a bit different because," or "I feel that this act, however small, reinforces your inherent right and developing capacity for self-expression." It builds confidence in the power of your own voice and allows you to practice articulating your thoughts clearly, respectfully, and with conviction. It can also subtly deepen your relationships by allowing others to see more of your true self, fostering more genuine connection and understanding. This final day culminates in putting all your cultivated confidence, clarity, and courageous introspection into practice. And there you have it, your 7-day Liberty Action Plan. These aren't just arbitrary tasks, they are deliberate, carefully considered steps towards embodying the principles of intellectual freedom, robust individuality, and profound critical engagement that underpin so much of profound philosophical thought. Each action, however seemingly small, is a brick laid in the foundation of a more examined, a more authentic, and ultimately, a more truly free life. Don't just listen to the philosophy, live it. Take on this challenge with commitment. Observe carefully how you feel, what new insights you gain, and how your perspective might subtly yet significantly shift. You might just find yourself cultivating a deeper sense of self, a broader and more empathetic understanding of the world, and a renewed appreciation for the transformative power of conscious choice. We hope you embrace this journey with an open mind and a courageous spirit, allowing these ancient ideas to illuminate your modern path. Until next time, keep thinking, keep questioning, and above all, keep living free. As we draw our exploration of Plato's monumental work, The Republic, to a close, let's crystallize its enduring wisdom into a 3-point toolkit: practical anchors for your personal liberty in an often turbulent world. These aren't just academic concepts confined to ancient texts. They are actionable insights designed to empower you, to resonate long after this video fades, and to be easily shared with others grappling with the complex currents of modern existence. Think of this as your essential liberty toolkit, forged in the intellectual fires of ancient Greece, yet remarkably relevant, profoundly insightful, and urgently necessary for your life today. Our first, and perhaps most crucial insight from Plato is this: chassis guard against the crowd. Teaches the greatest threats to our individual freedom often don't arrive with overt tyranny. They creep in subtly, whispered by the collective, manifested as unspoken social pressure and pervasive cultural expectations. Plato, through his allegories, like the haunting image of the prisoners in the cave, paints a vivid picture of how easily we become prisoners not of stone walls, but of shared illusion, of accepted norms, of popular opinion. He shows us the ship of state, where the clamor of the masses and the manipulations of the cunning drown out the quiet wisdom of the true navigator. This pressure to conform, to blend in, to echo the majority, can be far more insidious than any direct command. It slowly erodes your capacity for independent thought, for genuine self-expression, for the courage to stand apart. It convinces you that safety lies in uniformity, that truth resides in consensus, and that your unique perspective is a liability rather than an asset. But your liberty, your very essence, depends absolutely on your ability to detect and resist this powerful gravitational pull of the collective. Cultivate vigilant awareness of the narratives swirling around you. Question the unquestioned, and relentlessly scrutinize the assumptions society asks you to adopt as your own. Only by actively challenging these unseen chains can you truly preserve the sacred space of your own mind and the intellectual freedom it represents. This vigilance is not paranoia, it is the cornerstone of true autonomy. Our second vital tool, deeply intertwined with the first, is to welcome the challenged task in a world increasingly prone to echo chambers and ideological silos, where algorithms curate our realities. Plato's insistence on dialectic, on the rigorous, often uncomfortable exchange of ideas, stands as a profound antidote. It's tempting and frankly comfortable to surround ourselves exclusively with those who think like us, to reinforce our existing beliefs, to avoid the inevitable discomfort and friction of disagreement. But Plato understood a fundamental truth: robust, authentic truth is not found in comfortable agreement. It is forged in the crucible of intellectual friction. It is only by actively seeking out disagreement, by truly engaging with viewpoints that vigorously clash with our own, that we can adequately test the resilience and validity of our deepest convictions. Think of the Socratic method in action, not a battle to be won, but a cooperative, challenging quest for deeper understanding, where assumptions are laid bare and arguments are refined through persistent questioning. When you welcome the challenge, you're not just strengthening your beliefs against potential weakness or criticism, you're expanding your intellectual horizons, gaining invaluable empathy for different perspectives, and preventing your own truths from becoming hollow, unexamined dogma. It's in the spirited push and pull of genuine intellectual sparring that we sharpen our reasoning, deepen our insights, and discover truths more robust and multifaceted than anything we could conceive in isolation. So instead of recoiling from opposing ideas, lean into them with curiosity and courage. See them as indispensable opportunities for personal growth, for greater clarification, for the continuous evolution of your understanding. and for contributing to a more robust, dynamic, and truthful societal dialogue. Finally, and perhaps most liberating for your personal journey, is the call to live your experiment. Plato, for all his discussions of an ideal state, understood the irreplaceable importance of the individual soul's unique contribution. Your individuality, your distinct set of talents, perspectives, and passions, is not merely a personal attribute, it is a precious gift to society, the very engine of human progress. Don't ever be afraid to be different. Embrace it fiercely and unapologetically. In a world that often implicitly celebrates conformity, that sometimes rewards fitting in over standing out, it takes immense courage to chart your own course, to pursue your own unique vision of the good life, to express ideas that might not fit neatly into prevailing categories. Yet it is precisely this fearless embracing of one's authentic self, this unwavering willingness to step off the well-trodden path and explore uncharted territory, that truly propels humanity forward. Every significant innovation, every paradigm shift, every breakthrough in art, science, or philosophy began with someone brave enough to think differently, to question established norms, to challenge the status quo, to dare to live out their own unique experiment in existence. Your life is not merely a preordained path to be followed, but a unique journey of discovery to be courageously undertaken, with all its inherent risks, uncertainties, and profound rewards. By daring to be different, by fully inhabiting your own unique potential, you not only enrich your own life immeasurably and find genuine fulfillment, but you also offer a vital spark to the collective human experience, inspiring others, paving new ways of thinking and being, and continually redefining what is truly possible for us all. So, go forth, live authentically, let your unique light shine brightly, and in doing so, contribute your invaluable part to the ongoing, magnificent experiment that is human progress. These three principles, actively guarding against the crowd's sway, eagerly welcoming intellectual challenge, and boldly living your own unique experiment, are your constant companions, your internal compass, guiding you toward a life of genuine liberty, profound meaning, and lasting impact, all rooted in the timeless and ever-relevant wisdom of Plato. The journey through Plato's The Republic is rarely a comfortable one, is it? It's a journey that challenges our most deeply held assumptions about justice, society, and even our own souls. But it's precisely in this discomfort that true growth and understanding reside. We've wrestled with the ideal city, contemplated the allegory of the cave, and confronted the uncomfortable truth of potential philosophical tyranny, all in pursuit of a more just and free existence. Now, as we draw this particular segment to a close, the real work, your personal engagement with these timeless ideas, truly begins. Plato understood that a truly flourishing society isn't built on passive acceptance, but on active, critical inquiry. And in that spirit, I want to pose a question to you, one that resonates deeply with the core dilemmas we've explored. Ask us in the comments below. Share one area of life where you feel the tyranny of the majority the most. Think about those moments when popular opinion, societal norms, or the sheer weight of conventional thinking seems to stifle individual expression, rational debate, or even genuine innovation. Where do you observe the pressure to conform, to shy away from uncomfortable truths, or to sacrifice the pursuit of excellence for the sake of popular approval? Perhaps it's in public discourse, where certain viewpoints are swiftly condemned without genuine engagement. Maybe it's within cultural trends where unique voices are drowned out by overwhelming mainstream currents. Or perhaps closer to home, within community decisions or even personal interactions, where the desire to belong overshadows the courage to stand for what is truly right or intellectually sound. Your insights are invaluable, not just for us, but for fostering a truly dynamic and robust intellectual community here. By articulating these experiences, we not only gain clarity ourselves, but also help illuminate the subtle ways in which our collective liberty can be eroded, often without us even realizing it. This isn't just an exercise, it's an invitation to a shared exploration, to collectively dissect the often invisible chains that bind us and to better understand the true meaning of freedom. If you found the ideas discussed in this video valuable, if they've sparked a new thought, challenged an old one, or simply entertained your intellect, please take a moment to hit that like button. Your engagement signals to us that this kind of deep, thoughtful exploration of classic wisdom holds meaning for you, and it helps us reach more curious minds eager to grapple with these profound questions. And if you're keen to continue your own journey into liberty, to consistently unpack the profound wisdom embedded in the great works of philosophy and literature, then I wholeheartedly encourage you to subscribe to this channel. This isn't just about passive consumption, it's about joining a growing community dedicated to making classic wisdom not just accessible, but truly practical for navigating the complexities of modern life. We aim to equip you with the mental tools, the critical frameworks, and the historical context necessary to think more clearly, reason more effectively, and ultimately, to live a more examined and truly free life. Every subscriber strengthens this community of inquiry, helping us to delve deeper, explore further, and collectively push the boundaries of our understanding. Our commitment is to provide you with consistent, high-quality deep dives that transform ancient texts from dusty relics into vibrant, relevant guides for contemporary challenges. Furthermore, true wisdom, much like justice, often flourishes best in dialogue. So, if this video resonated with you, if it stirred up ideas you believe are worth discussing, why not share it with a friend or colleague who appreciates deep and challenging conversations? Imagine the rich discussions you could have, dissecting Plato's arguments, debating their relevance today, and even challenging each other's interpretations. Intellectual growth is rarely a solitary pursuit. It thrives in the exchange of ideas, in the push and pull of respectful disagreement, and in the shared pursuit of truth. By sharing, you're not just spreading a video, you're sparking potential new dialogues, strengthening intellectual bonds, and helping to cultivate a broader culture of critical thinking. Think of it as extending an invitation to another thoughtful mind to join us on this exciting intellectual adventure, to contribute their own unique perspectives to our growing understanding of what it means to live a good life. And speaking of continuing our journey, I'm thrilled to announce that our very next deep dive will continue to explore the enduring legacy of Plato by delving specifically into the Philosopher-King, Can Absolute Power Be Just? Will tackle the implications of Plato's most controversial idea head-on, examining whether the concept of rule by the wisest, unconstrained by popular will, truly offers a path to utopia, or if it inevitably leads to a different form of tyranny. It's a critical next step in understanding the practical applications and potential pitfalls of Plato's radical vision, building directly on the foundations we've laid today. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss that crucial conversation. Your journey into profound understanding and personal liberty doesn't end here, it merely transforms. Let's continue to explore, question, and grow together, making the wisdom of the ancients a vital compass for our modern world. Thank you for joining me on this thought-provoking exploration. Until next time, keep thinking critically, keep questioning everything, and keep striving for your own ideal republic within and without.